talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin, and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. Here we go now. I'm talking about Mr. Gulley, and you don't know where he's been. Oh no, he's been right in your alley. Well, I'm Mr. Gulley, yes I am. So what we talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin, and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. One, two, three, four. They call me Mr. Gulley. I've got something for your ear. Now it might sound kind of funny, but I'll make it very clear. So what we talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin, and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. Here we go now. I'm talking about Mr. Gulley, and you don't know where he's been. Oh no, he's been right in your alley. Well, I'm Mr. Gulley, yes I am. So what we talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin, and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way.
Hey everybody, what's going on? What's hot? What's hip? What's happening? What is shaking on your Thursday night? Hope you're having a good one. Tonight, let me tell you about vampires. I'll tell you what, as bad as you think it is, vampires, it's worse. It's way, way, way worse than you think it is. We got a lot to get to here right off the top, but before we get going too fast, too far, please like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell, especially those likes, especially those subscribes. Doesn't cost you anything but a click, and we'll love you forever if you do that. Only takes a little click. We need that. We do have memberships. We do have super chats. And of course, we love it when you help the show out that way. It helps us pay the bills around here. If you look at the begging bar at the bottom of the screen right now, you can learn all about our merch store and super chats, memberships, of course. And then turn on your gifted memberships. Sometimes extremely generous, philanthropic people will gift you out of the goodness of their heart a membership to the Tom Gulley Show, which unlocks all that members-only exclusive content you so desperately crave and you so rightfully deserve. I got to tell you, I got a notification from Cafe Press that does all of our merch. Today, $27.99 gets you a customized garden flag. Now, we don't offer garden flags, but I just thought it was funny, so I thought I'd mention it. And by the way, I've got to promote this little number right here. 1 week from yesterday, next Wednesday, we are absolutely thrilled beyond belief. Our guest on this program will be none other than the lovely and talented and kind and compassionate, the emblematic, the iconic actress, Ruta Lee will be with us. She'll tell us about that May 30th performance she's having in Los Angeles, California, in Hollywood. Yes, we're going to get all of that information. I shaved today just to tell you about that. If I wasn't going to tell you about that, I wouldn't have shaved. It just wouldn't have happened. Anyway, Ruta Lee here, less than a week now. I mean, I'm going to get my eyebrows trimmed, the whole thing. It's the whole thing. Ruta Lee in less than a week. I am going to be gushing and fawning, and it's going to be incredible. Let's get to some of your comments very quickly. Funky Bronco says he thinks today's episode will be spooky. And by the way, I'm protecting all of us with garlic in the background to ward off any potential. He says he can't wait for the show. He knows it'll be good. He still can't wait. He likes our intro. Thank you so much, Funky Bronco. Metal Maiden Vicky is here. She, of course, the host of Metal Maiden Vicky's Metal Euphoria on SonicAsylumRadio.com every Saturday on that website from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. Her chat room is amazing. She is amazing. The music is amazing. She may occasionally take a request, so you want to check that out. She asks, may I be invited into chat for the vampire show? She, of course, is aware that one of the lores surrounding vampires is that you must be invited into your home by a vampire. So there you go. And the vampire emojis are flying. Doo is here. She's one of our long-time viewers and quite generous and always sensible and well-loved in our chat room. Says, sound is the same as the beginning of last night. What did I do last night to fix that? Does that fix it? Oh, I know what you're talking about. Never mind. Hold on. That's StreamYard helping me out again. Typically, I would just set my sound settings and they would remain that way into the end of time. But no, apparently we set it there. Now we should sound fine again. That's really starting to stick in my craw a little bit. You guys know how long I've been using StreamYard. I've never had to do that until last night and tonight. Maybe that was Discord, who knows. People saying hi. Yes, the same sound. I've fixed it. I'll be on the lookout for that from now on. I also have to unmirror my video at the beginning of every. It's just, what are you doing, StreamYard? What are you doing? Ariana May says, are we going to talk about that weird kid at every middle school who insists they're a vampire? Attorney says, Bob Levy tonight? No, that was not Bob Levy. That was not Bob Levy. People saying hi. People saying hi. There's so many noises outside this place now in this neighborhood. Melanie and Vicky getting greetings. People saying hi. Boomer. Sounds all good now. Yeah, sounds good now. You know, I set it up and it was just fine. The right microphone. I guess every single show I'm going to have to tell it over and over and over again. Use the microphone that we always use. Yeah. That's not pleasing to me at all. It really isn't. As bad as you thought let me tell you about vampires. As bad as you thought they were, and they're not real, by the way, it's worse. The actual history of people's thinking that there are vampires is worse than actual vampires. I swear to you. You're not gonna like it. It's not cool, man. It's super not cool. Now, see, a vampire is a mythical creature that subsists by feeding on the vital essence of a human. That's usually blood, generally blood. In European folklore, which is kind of the folklore that's in movies and things like that, vampires are undead humans. And then originally they visited loved ones, pretty much, and caused mischief or deaths in various neighborhoods. And early on, they wore shrouds. And the early vampires, okay, this is before the cool, what I'm going to call the cool vampires. The early vampires were bloated and had red faces and bad skin, and very different than today's pale, stylish vampires. However, I can tell you that vampire entities have been recorded in cultures around the world. The vampire kind of idea is everywhere. It's not just here. It's not just in Europe. It's in Asia. It's in Africa. It is everywhere. And there have been vampire crazes in past times. Now, we today know that vampires aren't real, at least most of us, except as Ariana May mentions, that one kid in middle school that insists. There are beliefs in other things like vampires, vampiric creatures like the chupacabra that some people believe in, but there's reasons that people believed in vampires. I will tell you those reasons. And when you hear of those reasons, you will say, wow, those people were dumb. But there are reasons, okay? The charismatic vampire, the sophisticated vampire, the vampire that seduces women or men, was born in 1819 with the publication of something called The Vampire. It was a popular work of fiction called The Vampire, right? Back in the day. And there were many, many, many forms of literature back in the day that celebrated vampires. But the one in 1819 was very successful and arguably the most influential vampire work of the early 19th century. But the whole thing got changed in 1897 when Bram Stoker's Dracula came out. It's known as the quintessential vampire novel, and that was really the basis of the modern vampire legend. Although there was an earlier very successful novel by John Sheridan Le Fanu called Camellia, actually. This is what spawned the vampire genre with books, films, TV shows, video games, and it is arguably the dominant theme in horror to this day. Now, how did the word vampire come about? Well, the term vampire finds its earliest records in English, Latin, and French, and references to it were found in Russia, Poland, and North Macedonia. The English term derived maybe from French, vampire, and from the German vampire at the turn of the 18th century. The Serbian term capital B, small a, M, thing that looks like a fence, backwards N, P, vampire, appeared earlier. And then in Old Slavic, O-H fence, small b-I, capital P, but it's got a real longer than normal descender on it. I could go through all of the various terms and all of the various languages. I don't think you want that. Yeah, but the word vampire first appeared in English in 1732 in news reports about vampire epidemics in Eastern Europe, and I will tell you about those in just a second. Yeah. After Austria gained control of northern Serbia and Oltenia with the Treaty of Passarowitz in 1718, officials noticed the local practice of exhuming bodies and, quote, killing vampires. And those got widespread publicity. Yeah. There have been folk beliefs in vampires forever, and they were earlier thought to be revenants of evil beings or suicide victims or witches or even just a malevolent spirit possessing a corpse or by being bitten by a vampire. They were so pervasive that in some areas it caused mass hysteria, even public executions of people believed to be vampires, which we know there's not vampires. They just killed people is what happened. Now, vampires, as I mentioned earlier, were usually reported as bloated, fat in appearance, and like their faces would be ruddy or purplish or dark in color. And they attributed that to recently drinking blood, which was often seen like seeping from the corners of the mouth or the nose when, well, they would open the coffin and under the shrouds. Sometimes their eyes were open, and its hair, teeth, and nails may have grown. But the early vampires did not have fangs. However, and this is along the lines of what I was telling you earlier about the vampire, like real sort of like the legends and stuff are much worse than you ever thought. Chewing sounds were reported emanating from graves. Yes, chewing sounds. And what really are chewing sounds? I don't even know how they, anyway. Yeah. Any corpse that was jumped over by an animal in Slavic and Chinese tradition, particularly a dog or a cat, was feared to become one of the undead. Yeah. So if you had a corpse just laying around like you do and a cat or a dog jumped over it, aha, vampire. A body with a wound that had not been treated with boiling water was also at risk. So imagine you cut yourself and you didn't immediately pour boiling water on it. You could be a vampire. Yeah. Also, people that rebelled against the church while they were alive were thought to be vampires. Yeah. So what did they do to protect themselves from vampires early on? Well, let me tell you what they did. Let me just tell you. This is so stupid. They would bury the corpse upside down, and they would place early objects like a scythe near the grave to satisfy the demons or appease the dead so that the body wouldn't rise out of the The ancient Greeks would put coins in the mouth of the corpse so that the corpse would be able to travel across the river Styx and pay the ferryman in the underworld. The coins also blocked the evil spirit from entering the body. Yeah. In Greek folklore, a wax cross and a piece of pottery with the inscription, Jesus Christ Conquers, were placed on the corpse to prevent the body from becoming a vampire. And here's some other, and these, as I say, are much worse than we really think of today, other methods to keep, a vampire from happening, someone turning into a vampire, including severing the tendons at the knees or placing poppy seeds, millet, or sand on the ground at the grave of a presumed vampire. Okay? And here's why. They thought that vampires all suffered from something called arithmomania. And what arithmomania means, it's very Rain Man, it's very OCD. They thought that vampires, once they awoke from the grave, they would have to count all of the grains of sand before they could do anything. Or the sack of rice. The Chinese would put a sack of rice next to the grave, and then the vampire would have to count all of the grains of rice. Because that makes sense, right? Right? It gets worse, folks. It gets worse. I hate to tell you this. It actually gets worse. There were rituals that they used to identify a vampire. All right. Now, one method of finding a vampire's grave, right? You suspect there's a vampire in the area, like you do, because, of course, you would lead a virgin boy through a graveyard. Yeah, and you would travel also perhaps through a virgin stallion. You would ride a virgin stallion through the graveyard, and the horse would balk at the grave in question. Now, that's a little problematic because horses don't like to travel on like ground that's not firm, and you just buried a body, for crying out loud. Generally, a black horse was required, although in Albania, the horse was white because, you know, those Albanians, they just can't go along with everybody else with the vampire thing. Also, holes, divots in the earth over a grave were taken as a sign of vampirism and not just a guy who didn't bury the corpse very well. Now, corpses thought to be vampires were generally described as having a healthier appearance than expected. They were plump, and they showed little to no signs of decomposition. And in some cases, when the suspected graves were opened, villagers would describe the corpse as having blood all over its face. All right? And the evidence that they would cite was many times the death of cattle, sheep, relatives, neighbors. The other things that would identify a vampire was like stones hitting a roof, moving household objects, and people feeling someone pressing on them during their sleep, poltergeist type of stuff. Now, in a second, because I'm going to get to some of your comments here real fast, I'm going to tell you about what are called apotropaics. And those are items able to ward off the vampire. Yes, let's get to some of your very, very wonderful, nice, beautiful things, the comments. Terry Nee says vampires and Sasquatch are real. Neither of them are real. We all know this. Kids are vampires. They suck my wallet dry. I'm here all week. Try the buffet. People saying hi. The wolf is in here. People saying hi. People saying hi. We do have the most cheerful chat room on the internet, as verified by independent sources. Good time to remind you, please like, please share, please subscribe, please notification bell, please retweet. All those free things, they're absolutely free to you, that you can do to help support this show. Please click that like button. Please click that subscribe button, even if you're never coming back. And also super chats and memberships, and the turn on your gifted memberships tells how down in the crawl. Funky Bronco just continues his bromance with the wolf. Virgo Sapphire is here from at the Urban Landlord on YouTube. She says, "Hey Tom." Hello Virgo, always good to see you. And people saying hi, people saying hi, people saying hi, people saying hi, people saying hi. Let's see here. Metalman V says, "Love that font on the tractat. Very metal." It is very metal. Vampires are kind of metal. People saying hi. People saying hi. People saying hi. The chef is in the house. We always love it when the chef's here. Peppy Sylvia is here. Peppy is always a good time. Makes the place more peppy. Jay Bizzle is here from over at the Pod Awful Cult. Please give Pod Awful Cult $1. They just asked me to ask you to do that. Vampires hate math, but they like counting things, like the count on Sesame Street. People saying hi, people saying hi, people saying hi, people saying hi. Alcoholism, people saying hi, people saying hi. Let's see here. The Wolf says, Funky, I've just had some RO water. Does that count? Of course it counts. Rengoku Wan says, Frankenstein talking about vampires. Thank you. Thank you for that. I have been called Frankensteinian many times, and I do not run away from that description. Because, obviously. Anyway, we got another vampire emoji from Pepe Sylvia. Thank you, Pepe. The Wolf says, Rengoku, that's Frankenstein's monster. That is true. Frankenstein is the doctor. Frankenstein's monster is the creature normally referred to as Frankenstein in most cultures. Pepe Sylvia, thank you so much for the donation. 5-star shows have arrived. Thank you, Pepe. Thank you. I appreciate that. It really, really does help the show when we get a little something for the effort. You know, a little something for the effort. A little something for the effort. Just for you, Pepe, you get the picture of Ruta Lee. There you go for that donation. Ruta Lee, by the way, will be here in less than a week. Next Wednesday, she will be a very special guest star on this program. I cannot wait. People saying hi, people saying hi, people saying hi, people saying hi, people saying hi. Chef says, I'm in cooking mode. What do you want for dinner? Hey, Grandpa, what's for supper? What would if I was there with you? I know you're famous for your pizza. Let's see here. I would like you to replicate a Noble Roman's pizza with your special chefness take on it. So a Noble Roman's pizza, but something not on the menu, if that makes any sense. Because as we know, sometimes I like things to be just a little extra fancy. I remember the Tom Frankenstein. Wow, that was a while ago. Yes, somewhere hidden away in one of my 500 shows or whatever, I am actually dressed up as Frankenstein with face makeup, the whole, yeah. Yes, Pepe. Yes, that exists. That happened. That actually happened. It was an actual thing. Shrimp, well, I'm not a seafood guy, but chef, if you make it, I'll give it a try. Now let's talk for a second about atropiacs. Apotropiacs. That's what they're called. Apotropiacs. And these are things that ward off vampires. Now, garlic is a common example. I have the big garlic behind me, but I'm putting this one up on screen because we can't have too many things that ward off vampires. Now, garlic, very common example. A branch of wild rose and hawthorn are sometimes associated with causing harm to vampires in Europe. Mustard seeds would be sprinkled on the roof of a house to keep them away. Other apotropiacs include sacred items, such as a crucifix, right? A crucifix, he said, a rosary, the Holy Bible. Here's another one for you. Water. Yes, that's holy water right there. Now, some folklore says that vampires cannot walk on consecrated ground, which usually just means the grounds of a church. And churches and temples in general, they can't go there. And they can't cross running water. They cannot cross running water, which you do actually see in some modern vampire tales. And when I say modern, I'm talking, since 1931 and the famous Bela Lugosi Dracula. Although not specifically and traditionally regarded as an apotropiac, mirrors, yes, have been used to ward off vampires when they're placed facing outwards or on a door, because in some cultures, vampires don't have a reflection and don't cast a shadow. And the revelation or reminder to the vampire that they don't have a soul freaks them out and makes them sad and they run away, right? It's not universal, but it was used by Bram Stoker in the Dracula novels, so it became popular with authors and filmmakers. Now, Metal Maiden Vicky was talking about this earlier in our chat. And some traditions believe that a vampire cannot enter a house unless specifically invited by the owner. And then after that first invitation, they can come and go as they please. But that first introduction, you don't want to do that. Although in folklore, vampires were believed to be more active at night, they weren't considered to be vulnerable to sunlight as they are now. Okay? And before I forget, I got to stop down for a second. I'm not a fan of the Twilight film franchise. There's a lot of reasons for that. A lot. One of the biggest ones is in the Twilight movies. The vampires get together and they play baseball during the day. How can they do that? I hear you cry out. How? How? How could they possibly do that? The sunlight would kill them. It was overcast. Really? Are we just going to throw the whole thing out and now they can walk around if it's cloud? Here's one that will, and as I keep trying to remind you, the history of the vampire is worse than the vampire. And in this case, getting rid of the vampire, worse than a vampire, and maybe kind of makes you a vampire yourself. Reports in 1693 and 1694 concerning sightings of vampire in Poland and Russia claimed when a vampire's grave was recognized, you're walking along, you're minding your own business, you say, hey, looks like a vampire's grave. Here's what they did. They would eat baked bread with blood mixed into the flour, or they would just drink blood themselves to ward off the vampire. Isn't that kind of like shooting yourself to prevent getting shot? Isn't that? Anyway, here's another one. You're going to love this. You're going to love this one. Another remedy to protect yourself from a vampire: eating dirt. Eating dirt, especially dirt from the vampire's grave. I don't know about you, man, but I'm sitting here going, be a vampire, eat dirt. Which do I really want to? I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know. Another thing that they thought would keep them in the grave were like rune stones and like big rocks that had things written on them that said, hey, vampire, you can't leave your grave. What's up with you? I don't know why I can't leave my grave. Anyway, methods of destroying vampires are varied back in the day. Now, the most common one persists to this day, and that's staking a vampire, right through the heart, particularly in the Slavic cultures. And let's just go ahead and say the Dracula legend from Romania, that's Slavic. That's technically, I guess it's not Slavic, but it's kind of Slavic. Ash was the preferred wood in Russia and the Baltic states, hawthorn in Serbia, oak in Silesia. Aspen was also used for stakes, as it was believed that Christ's cross was made of aspen. And aspen branches on the graves of purported vampires was also believed to prevent them from rising at night. Now, potential vampires were most often staked through the heart, but in Russia and northern Germany, because they're extra cruel there, potential vampires were staked through the mouth, through the stomach in northeastern Serbia. Piercing the skin of the chest was the way of deflating a bloated vampire. This is the old days now. And this is the thing that's kind of similar to the practice of anti-vampire burial. Okay? Now, anti-vampire burial, this is what that was. Dig this. They would bury someone they suspected of having a chance of becoming a vampire with sharp objects like thorns and sharpened stakes, and they would put it all around the edges of the crypt or the coffin, so that because they thought these vampires were always bloated, when they bloated, they would penetrate the vampire and deflate the vampire. Yes, they would deflate. Did I just say the words deflate the vampire? Whatever. Decapitation was the preferred method in German and Western Slavic France, because the Germans like things sometimes in the old days just a little more violent. The head would then be buried. Folks, I'm not making this up. I really am not. The head was then buried between the feet, or wait for it, or, because this is degrading, or, it's very Monty Python, behind the buttocks. Yes, the decapitated head would be buried behind the buttocks, or anywhere away from the body. This was seen as a way of speeding up the departure of the soul, because some cultures thought that the reason they were vampires, their soul hadn't escaped their corpse. They would sometimes also pin them. They would pin them down. They would Gulliver. They would staple them down with their clothes and stuff to prevent them from rising. The Romanians, and let's just say a lot of vampire stuff came out of Romania, they would drive steel or iron needles into a corpse's heart and place bits of steel in the mouth, over the eyes or the ears or between the fingers. They would use a hawthorn, like I was talking about. In a 16th century burial near Venice, a brick was forced into the mouth of a female corpse, and that's like a vampire slaying ritual. In Bulgaria, they have found over 100 skeletons with metal objects embedded in the torso. Right. Other things, pouring boiling water over the grave or incinerating the body. In southeastern Europe, a vampire could be killed by being shot or drowned, or repeating a funeral service, just doing it again, sprinkling holy water, an exorcism. They'd place garlic in the mouth. They'd shoot a bullet through the coffin. So you get the person, you put them in the coffin, you get ready to bury them, and then you shoot it. Yeah. Now, the tales of supernatural spirits, specters, consuming blood or flesh, that's the worldwide, right? Even before the term or the concept of vampire. So blood drinking and all that was way early. The Persians had blood drinking demons, still not calling them vampires. But in Greco-Roman mythology, Empusa was the daughter of the goddess Hecate, and was described as a demonic bronze-footed creature. She feasted on blood by transforming into a young woman and seduced men as they slept before drinking their blood. Yeah. In Turkish mythology, there was a vampiric creature that had various regional depictions. It was a shapeshifter. It could do a lot of other things. Now, when Christianity took hold in Greece, the vampire began to take on very much Christian characteristics. It was viewed as a dead person who retained a semblance of life and could leave its grave much in the same way that Jesus had risen after his death and burial. In the Middle Ages, Christian churches reinterpreted vampires from the old folk tales into minions of Satan and used an allegory to communicate a doctrine to Christian. Just as a vampire takes a sinner's very spirit into itself by drinking his blood, so can also a righteous Christian, by drinking Christ's blood, take divine spirit unto himself. And that interpretation spread like wildfire. Like wildfire. There is a tale from a 16th century rabbi of an uncharitable old woman whose body was found unguarded and unburied for 3 days after she died, and she rose to become a vampire, killing hundreds of people. Right. Sure they did. Yes. They did things like that. Yeah. A lot of the things that are associated with this spring from people not having a very good understanding of what happens to the human body medically, physically, after death. And certain doctors actually took part in spreading the vampire lore, because although they were doctors, the medical science hadn't progressed very much. And so these doctors started writing actual medical kind of documents about vampires that even theologians and clergymen would weigh in on these things, and actual disputes arose. No, what I think about the vampires. Now, the biggest thing centered around the non-decay of bodies, because people would open graves and things, and as is true today, some bodies decay faster than others. And obviously someone that died 100 years ago is going to be in worse shape than somebody 5 minutes ago. And there we go. It was very, very problematic for them. So in the early 18th century, there was a huge controversy. The beliefs in folklore started to die out during the Age of Enlightenment. And that spurred a dramatic increase in the popular belief in vampires. So you've got people starting to do away with old wives' tales, but doctors and religious figures are writing actual serious papers on vampires, so people started to really believe it. The panic in the 18th century began with an outbreak of alleged vampire attacks in East Prussia in 1721 and the Habsburg monarchy from 1725 to 1734, and that spread everywhere. The first vampire case involved the corpses of Petar Blagojevich from Serbia. Now, Blagojevich was reported to have died at the age of 62, but returned after his death, asking his son refused. And when the son refused him, the son was found dead the following day. So Blagojevich supposedly returned and attacked some neighbors who died from loss of blood. The second case was Milos Caesar, an ex-soldier turned farmer who was allegedly attacked by a vampire years before and died from the attack while he was haying. I know what you're thinking already. Yet another haying-related tragedy. I know. After his death, people began to die in surrounding areas. It was widely believed that Milos had returned to prey upon his neighbors. Now, these two incidents were extremely well documented for the time. Government officials actually examined the bodies. They wrote case reports. They published books all over Europe. The problem was exacerbated by rural epidemics of so-called vampire attacks, which were undoubtedly caused by a higher amount of superstition and locals digging up bodies and in some cases staking them. Even government officials engaged in the hunting and staking of vampires. And this hysteria was commonly referred to as the vampire controversy. It continued for at least a generation. At least 16 contemporary treatises discuss the theological and philosophical implication of the vampire epidemic. Yeah. There was one called The Treatise on the Apparitions and Spirits and on Vampires or Revenants, which was very popular by a guy named Don Augustine Calmet. Anyway, the controversy in Austria ceased when Empress Maria Theresa sent her personal physician, Gerard von Swieten, to investigate the claims of vampire entities. And he concluded that vampires did not exist, and the empress passed laws prohibiting the opening of graves and desecration of bodies, and that ended the epidemic. Other European countries followed suit, and despite all this condemnation and it's being against the law to check into vampires, the myth lived on in works of fiction and local folklore. Oh, yeah, I'm not going to tell you about Africa or Asia. Yes. But we are going to now switch to your kind of vampire, the suave and debonair kind of vampire. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're going to get to that after I get to some of your comments here real quickly. Let's see here. I got to go back. I got to go way back. Wow, you got a lot of Wolf says, Chef, clams with white sauce. That's for you. Chef says, I have a lot of garlic. Garlic is great. And garlic added against Count Alucard. The Wolf and I have talked about Count Alucard quite frequently. Let me stop down for a second about Count Alucard. I don't know. Here, let me get rid of some of this stuff. Again, I have to get rid of things so I can show you things, which to me is just ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. But I'm gonna get into Count Alucard. I'm gonna jump ahead just to make you happy with some modern stuff here, and I'm gonna tell you a little bit about Count Alucard. While the car with no muffler makes me angrier and angrier every single second that exists. I can't even tell you how angry I am about the stupid car that has the thing. Okay, here you go. See this guy right here? I know you know who this guy is right here, all right? That is Bela Lugosi from the legendary 1931 film Dracula, which to most of us modern peoples is the defining work as it affects vampires. It's what we know as vampire. All the rules were made by this movie. Well, that was a Universal picture, okay? So Universal owned certain of the rights to using the name Dracula. In many other films, especially B movies about vampires, the name Count Alucard is used. Why? Spell Alucard backwards. D-R-A-C-U-L-A. Dracula. Dracula. Need I say more? Need I say more? There you go. So there's a little peek behind the curtain of the conversations Wolf and I have all the time. Metal Maiden Vicky's got a little story for us here. She says, years ago I met a guy on a blind date. He was very charming and good looking. So we're sitting at a bar and he keeps looking in the mirror behind the bar. I ask why he kept doing that. And he says, oh, can you see me in the mirror? I laugh out loud, and oh boy. Here is Virgo Sapphire. Virgo, thank you so much. Said thank you. I wanted this show. You wanted it. You got it, Virgo. Because you said the other day that you had suggested some topics, and I had not done. Well, I did this one. And by the way, Virgo, just in my own defense, I have a number of topics that I have yet to get to on this program. On this program that I haven't gotten to, that are waiting for me to do that topic And I have Ruta Lee, legendary actress and philanthropist, on this show less than a week from today. I will not be asking her about any vampire shows that she was in. That I will not ask. The Wolf says, thank you so much, by the way, for the $5, Virgo. It is very, very much appreciated. The Wolf says, Funky, I'm not a vampire, I'm a wolf, so of course I like garlic. Just had some. Dupa says, Vicky, those blind dates. You got that right. Wolf says, wait, Metal, I thought you said he was blind. Is this a blind date? Yeah. You guys. Please like, please share, please subscribe, please notification bell, retweet. Tell a friend, tell an enemy. But those likes and subscribes really help us out, and they only cost a click. We have super chats, we have memberships. Incredibly generous people like Pepe Sylvia and Virgo Sapphires have donated. We love it when you do that. They do help us pay the bills around here, and they help my ego, frankly. They really do. I have this far away notion that someday this could be the only thing that I do. Yeah. It's going to take a lot more. Anyway, the memberships are cool. And then the super chats are cool. But if you turn on your gifted memberships, it tells how at the bottom of the screen. Somebody might just gift you a membership out of the goodness of their heart. And then you'll have access to that exclusive members-only content that members have rejoiced over. I don't work blue. I know there's a rumor out there that I work blue for the members. I don't. Metal Main Vicky says, yeah, I did hang out with him for the rest of the night. We were at a rock club, so we watched the band, etc. But that was the last time we met up. Too bad, too, because he was pretty cool. Well, vampires can be pretty cool. Virgo says, I'm going to Romania to visit Dracula's castle, hopefully next year. Well, look at you. I'm going to get to that in a minute here, by the way, Virgo. I really am. Wolf says, Virgo, I have been known to enjoy the moon. Yes, while you're absorbing. I've been with the wolf while he's absorbing. It's a long story. What do we got here? That will be a really great trip. Howl at the moon. Howl at the moon, Kim. Bark at the moon. Sounds like a damp, creepy trip. It won't be. Wolf, I've seen photos and videos from that trip. It is opulent. It's a nice trip. It's a good trip. Metal Main Vicky, I can't wait. I have a cousin there. Coach Mike is here. He says, better late than never. Hello to all my friends in chat. Oh, hey, Tom. Hello, Coach. Good to see you. People saying hi, people encouraging other people, people saying hi, people saying hi. Virgo says, Kim, I love damp, dark, and creepy. I'd fit right in. Yes. People saying hi. People say, Doc is here. The Doctorn is here. Oh, man, our resident Cajun. And I hope Doc is doing well. I hope his impending childbearing situation is going along well. And people saying hi. Wolf is asking if she has a cousin living in the castle. People saying hi. People saying hi. No, not the castle. I'd have to move in with her and her husband. Laughter's going on. Funky Bronco is here. Metal Main Vicky says, I was watching Tom's Elliot Ness episode, and I have to say I love the phone call with Wolf, Doc, and Virgo. That was awesome and very enjoyable. That is the greatest use of our phone line ever. Ever. A Funky Bronco upset he was not mentioned in the hellos. Didn't see you, Funky. My bad. No worries. Okay, you guys have all made up. That's great. Virgo saying, Kim, you have to come back to the John Galt channel. We love having you. Wolf says, I have to give blood Friday. Oh, wolf blood. What's a highly desired thing. Funky says, hope you call in. You always got good stuff today. That's I didn't help spread that lore. Cajun vampires. Next on the Tom Gulley Show. People saying hi. People saying hi. Virgo, I've been training, so it's been sleepy time. Yeah, sleepy time. Wolf, are you O negative? Wolf's very positive. Virgo, I don't remember. I think it's B something or other. Funky Bronco says, Wolfie, I'd love to know your liquor recipe. That's a highly guarded secret. What's so super about these stations? So those stations. So it's superstitions, not a regular station. Okay, it's 7:50 at night. It's 63 degrees outside, and you hear that? I don't get it. Why does an ice cream truck ruin my show every night? Virgo says, okay, I'm O negative and just had a transfusion, hence I made a joke with Tom. Told him I was a vampire and asked him for this topic. Yes, she did. She did. Wolf says, I used to have my friends give plasma at school to pay for parties. That was a big deal at Ball State, was giving plasma to get a little extra cash. Reddenfield. Are you talking about Renfield? We did the show on Dwight Fry, who was the first Renfield. Well, he was the Renfield in the Dracula 1931 movie. Anyway. Chef says, I could do clams. That's not a problem. I'd rather do it with pasta. I hope you guys are talking about something different than pizza, because I'm not a seafood guy. I really am not. Virgo Sapphire says, I gave blood just to eat in college. I'm the universal donor. Yes. Yes, O is the universal donor. Wolfie used to sell lots of stuff at parties to fund alcohol. He really did. Chef, I love clam chowder. Now we're off on a food topic on the side. Virgo says, I think vampires prefer AB negative. AB negative is very rare. I happen to be AB positive, which is kind of rare. Count me safe then, says Virgo. Funky for pig roast bands and beer. What's a pig roast? Oh, my dear Funky Bronco. The pig roast was one of the biggest events next to the watermelon bust at Ball State. Beer is important. It's roasted pig. Is roasted pig expensive? It was $100 for a pig in those days, but you could feed like 500 people with it. Let's see. Let's see here. I need an update on Doc's nipper. Chef says, I'm sorry, Tom, but there's a storm coming in, so I have to go. Everybody say goodnight to the twin Gracies. Good night, everybody. And Chef, you take care. I know there were some storms that swept through Indiana, a little north of you, and hit the Muncie area last night. So take care. It's storm season in the Hoosier State. Metal Maiden Vicky says, my parents were in local theater, and one of the roles he played was Dracula. I loved playing with his stage makeup. Metal Maiden Vicky says, when I cleaned out my mom's house, I found Dad's Dracula cape. Sadly, it did not bode well in the basement, and I had to throw it away. Metal, no, not the cape. Let's see, not the cape. Why Metal? Fake dramatic crying. I'd post a picture of him as Dracula here, but I can't. Dang YouTube. Send it to me on Facebook. I'll put it up tomorrow when we talk about pretzels. Good night, Chef. We're having a storm right now. Chef, stay safe. Prayers. Yeah, there's some rough storms that hit Muncie last night, or East Central Indiana. Let's just call it that. All right. Now, in modern fiction, let's get modern, shall we? Shall we get modern with you? Oh, I'm going to show you a very popular. This was a very, very popular book and serialized account of vampires early on. The vampire these days tends to be depicted as a suave, charming, charismatic villain. Vampire hunting societies still exist, but they're social. Okay. Allegations of vampire attacks swept through Malawi during late 2002 and early 2003, with mobs stoning one person to death and attacking at least 4 others, including Governor Eric Chiwaya, based on the belief that the government was colluding with vampires. Fears and violence recurred in late 2017, with 6 people accused of being vampires killed. Note to self, don't go to the Republic of Malawi in southeastern Africa. Early in 1970, local press spread rumors that a vampire haunted Highgate Cemetery in London. Amateur vampire hunters flocked in large numbers to the cemetery. Several books have been written about it. Yeah. In January 2005, rumors circulated that an attacker had bitten a number of people in Birmingham, England, fueling concerns about a vampire roaming the streets. Local police stated no such crime had been reported, and the case appears to be an urban legend. Yes, of course, yes. In Europe, where much of the vampire folklore originates, the vampire is usually considered a fictitious being, but many communities have embraced the vampire for economic purposes. In some cases, especially in small localities, beliefs are still rampant, and sightings or claims of vampire attacks occur frequently. In Romania, during 2004, several relatives of Toma Petri feared he had become a vampire. They dug up his corpse, tore up his heart, and burned it. And then they mixed the ashes with water and drank it. Ew. 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 Grody. So grody. Many authors have stated that belief in vampires resulted from people in pre-industrial societies trying to explain the very, very natural but difficult to understand process of death and decomposition. And people sometimes suspected vampirism when a cadaver did not look as they thought a normal corpse should look when they dug it up, although they had little to no actual reference of what that was. Rates of decomposition vary depending on temperature, soil compositions. Anyway, that led vampire hunters to mistakenly conclude that a dead body had not decomposed at all. And there you go. Now, here's the reason for all the bloated vampire lore. Corpses actually swell as gases from decomposition accumulate in the torso, and that increased pressure of all the swelling makes blood ooze from the nose and mouth. And that's what makes the body look plump or well-fed or, reddish in complexion. And those changes are more dramatic if the person was pale or thin to begin with, right? In one case, an old woman's exhumed corpse was judged by her neighbors to look more plump and healthy than she ever looked in life. And the blood was exuding, so they said, aha, vampire. And also, when you drive a stake through one of these swollen, decomposing bodies, that'll cause the body to bleed, and it will force the accumulated gases to escape the body, producing a groan-like sound when the gases move past the vocal cords or, other areas that sound moves through a body. Right. Anyway, also after death, the skin and gums lose fluids and contract. And that exposes the roots of the hair and the nails and the teeth and gives it like a sinister appearance. It also can make an illusion that the hair or the nails or the teeth have grown. Right? Also, and this is even more, I told you a lot of this stuff is even more terrible than an actual vampire. Many of these vampire legends may have also been influenced because back then medical knowledge wasn't as good as it is today, and a lot of people were simply buried alive. Okay? So in those cases, people would report sounds coming from a coffin. They dig it up later and find fingernail marks were on the inside of the coffin from the victim trying to escape. Yeah. Eesh. So there you go. I'll tell you what. By the way, there's a rare blood disorder called porphyria. And that is when substances called porphyrins build up in the body, affect the nervous system, and in some cases make a person want more blood because they're losing theirs so fast. The thing is, doctors thought porphyria could be cured by more blood. It's a misunderstanding of the disease, but that's what fueled more vampire stuff. Doesn't really help. Also, there's neurologists who believe that rabies might have contributed to vampire folklore. Its susceptibility to garlic and light due to hypersensitivity, and that's a symptom of rabies. Also, it affects portions of the brain, which affect normal sleep patterns and hypersexuality and all of that kind of stuff. And it makes you go a little nutty, too, right? Right? Of course it does. Of course it does. Oh, another thing we should talk about is the vampire bat, which does actually drink blood. And they're really only part of vampire lore for a short period of time. You know, the 1927 stage production of Dracula followed the novel. The novel has Dracula transforming into a bat several times. Vampire bats are mentioned twice in the novel. And in that staged production in 1927, Dracula would turn into a bat like he did in the film. And that was used, obviously, in many other vampire movies and TV shows. It's a fixture now in our popular culture. Started off with the Nosferatu film in 1922, which, by the way, has just recently been remade. And that was probably one of the first examples, certainly on film. I already showed you Varney the Vampire, which was a very popular serial publication in the mid-1800s. And then, of course, Dracula by Bram Stoker, 1897. So fangs started appearing in the 19th century with Varney the Vampire there, and with Nosferatu. Fangs a big part of that. Immortality also became a part of the vampire, which has them sort of exchanging being one of the undead, drinking blood, sleeping during the day, with immortal or eternal life. So there you go there. There you go there. Let's just get to this guy here, 1931. This is when it really all started. I could talk about Nosferatu, which was one of the masterpieces of the silent era. And Nosferatu actually did influence Dracula, the film, quite heavily, right? The influence of the 1931 film Dracula, and I'm saying this as a film historian and analyst, theorist, if you will, that lasted until now. That movie is a little hokey by today's standards, but it really does stand up pretty well. It really does. It's not as bad as other movies from 1931. Stephen King, Francis Ford Coppola, Hammer horror films have had, at one time or another, derived inspiration from this film through either staging or quoting the film or listen to them, children of the night, what music they make. That line is from the novel by Bram Stoker, delivered by Lugosi. And Francis Ford Coppola paid homage to that moment with Gary Oldman in his interpretation of the Dracula story in 1992. Stephen King has credited Dracula as an inspiration for his character Kurt Barlow repeatedly in his interviews. For these reasons, Dracula was selected by the U.S. Library of Congress to be in the National Film Registry, right? Now, this continued. You know, this sort of Dracula worship continued and continues, but it continued in film. And there's some very like famous examples of this that continued. Basically what happened was the vampire legend of Dracula continued through the 30s, but at a certain point, those films kind of burned out. They the audience became sort of immune to them or deadened to them. And Dracula became almost a comic figure for a while, appearing with, Abbott and Costello and things of that nature. And certainly there were a lot of B movies that just weren't great movies, that were hokey with bats on strings and things like that. However, Hammer films, Hammer horror over in England, really brought like a serious Dracula back to life in 1958 with Christopher Lee starring as Count Dracula. And there were 7 sequels to that made by Hammer. Christopher Lee was in all of 2 of those, and he became extremely well known in that role. But in the 1970s, vampire films had gotten very diverse. There was Count Yorga Vampire in 1970, which was a very sexy film. There was a lot of nudity and things of that nature. There was an African Count in 1972's Blackula, and that was an exploitation film. Had a sequel, Scream Blackula Scream. Count Dracula, featuring French actor Louis Jourdan and Frank Finlay as Abraham Van Helsing. In the BBC was quite popular. A Nosferatu-like vampire appeared in 1979's Salem's Lot by Stephen King, and a remake of Nosferatu with Klaus Kinski, also in 1979. A lot of films featured the characterization of a female, often that likes girls, vampire, in Hammer Horror's The Vampire Lovers. And there you go. Now, one of the reasons that today is a particularly good day to talk about vampires is our good friend Barnabas Collins, here played by Jonathan Frid, on Dark Shadows. Yesterday was the anniversary, of the very last episode, 1,245 episodes of Dark Shadows. Yesterday, in 1971, was the very last episode. 1,225 episodes. The pilot for Kolchak, the Night Stalker, another show we've done here on the Tom Gulley Show. That pilot was a reporter hunting a vampire on the Las Vegas Strip. The Blade series of films, and certainly the film Buffy the Vampire Slayer and the subsequent TV series, big vampire things, and the spinoff from Buffy, Angel was a vampire. Others showed vampires as the protagonists, like 1983's The Hunger, 1994's Interview with the Vampire, and its sort of sequel, Queen of the Damned, and the 2007 series Moonlight. The increase in interest of vampire plot lines led to it being depicted in films such as Underworld. The Underworld franchise with Kate Beckinsale is incredibly good. Van Helsing is another great film. There was a remake of Salem's Lot in 2004. Blood Ties premiered on Lifetime Television in 2007. And let's see, True Blood, another one. Being Human, another one. Vampires have appeared in a bunch of role-playing games and video games. Castlevania is one. Legend of Kain. Vampire the Masquerade. There's also a thing now called vampire lifestyle, because of course. And that's a contemporary subculture of people, largely within the goth subculture, who consume the blood of others as a pastime. Yeah. And that gets into what they call psychic vampirism, which is people feeding from the life energy of other folks. So that's really all I have to tell you about vampires. I mean, this subject is quite vast, and I could go on and on and on and on. Hopefully, I've told you a few things about vampires that you did not know from the early days. And of course, as always, I try to tell you about things that are way more horrible than the topic that you thought you were going to hear about, because I'm an idiot. So hopefully, and there's a lot of comments to get here real quickly, which I will do. Let's see here. Station. Let's see. Okay, I can do that. We'll try to remember. Stay safe, right? Doc says, here's your update, Funky. There's no more Nipper. Oh, man, Doc, I am so sorry to hear that. I am so sorry to hear that. I really, really, really am. That's, you know. I'm sorry to hear that. Very sorry to hear that. Wolf said, I had a dream about vampires when I was a kid. My dad saved me by pulling his fangs. Well, that dad of yours was a great dad. Virgo says, Kim, give in. If they change you, you'll live forever. Wolf says, the vamp wasn't trying to turn me. Demeter. Kim, run. My dad saved me, as he did in many of my nightmares. There you go. Virgo says, my dad must have been your hero. Wolf says, my dad was a little smaller than me and a little shorter. He also wasn't as strong as me now, but he was not normal. He was tough. Metal Maiden Vicky says, I have a VHS tape of Nosferatu with typo negative playing in the background. It's really cool. Sounds cool. Metal, I have over 300 vampire films. I do not doubt that one bit. I preferred the Nosferatu series. The movie sucked. The new one, I mean. I've heard a lot of people say the new one sucked. It's a masterpiece of the silent age, but terrible. Wolf, wow, 300, yes. Metal Main Vicky says this one is the original Nosferatu. The typo soundtrack works very well with the film. Oh, this one right here, this fella right here. I'll put that up for you. Some are very good, but many are very bad, yes. Salem's Lot, according to Virgo, An Interview with the Vampire, are among my favorites. They're very good. Similar to The Wizard of Oz and Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, I have a VHS tape of that pairing, too, pretty well. Yeah, Wizard of Oz, you combine that with Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. I've seen that shown at clubs and stuff before. It's pretty freaky. Metal Main Vicky says, I'm currently revisiting Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV series, still in season 1 so far. I really liked Angel, and I was very upset when Fred died. I was very upset by that. Doopadoopadoo says, Werner Herzog's Nosferatu is one of my favorites. Werner Herzog makes great films, really great films. Metal Maiden Vicky with the metal sign. Metal Maiden Vicky says, I'm going to follow up by revisiting Angel. Yes, both of them. Very good shows. Oh, no, Doc. So sorry. Yeah, we're sorry, Doc. Doc, I just had to listen to the podcast for a bit, so I didn't notice your comment. Doc, we're all very sorry to hear that. That's unfortunate. I say you try again. I say you try again. But anything we can do for you, Doc, we will. Thank you, Tom and Dupa. It is what it is, yes. It is what it is. Doc, you're the best. You're the best. And you always will be our resident Cajun. So there. Memberships, super chats, sure. Turn on your gifted memberships, but really like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell, because we love it when you do that. However, it's my pleasure to announce the phone lines are open. The phone lines are open. I was really kind of into vampire movies when I kind of fell out of it at a certain point, and wasn't really into the Anne Rice and all of that hoo-ha all that much. But because of Barnabas, I was sort of into vampires. Haven't been feeling the best for the past week. Don't you worry about it, Doc. Don't you worry about it, man. Things will look up in no time. If history has taught us anything, it's that you, like most Cajuns, are indestructible. You are highly resilient. Highly resilient. And Ruta Lee is going to be here in less than a week. Come on, folks. She's doing a one-woman show Well, she's got some like special guests that'll be on it. In Los Angeles, in North Hollywood, and that's going to be on a date quite popular with longtime viewers of the show. That's my birthday, and that's her birthday. Yes, we share a birthday. Do Ruta Lee and I. I'm telling you. We do. We share a birthday. I know. I heard you.
Hello.
Hi, and welcome to the Tom Gulley Show. You're on the air. Who do I have the pleasure of speaking to, as if I don't already know?
It's the one and only Virgo.
Hey, Virgo. So good to hear from you.
So good to hear from you. Shout out to my favorite Cajun.
Yes.
I hope everything's okay.
Yeah, he had a little setback, and
Yeah.
he and his gal, but hopefully things will.
I totally get it. I went through a storm
Yeah.
a couple months ago, so I'm here in Florida, so I know.
Yeah. The wolf says, when he be cool, he be Popeye. But when he be bad, he be Billy the... No, Dracula. He be Dracula. So, yes. So you are going to the home of the original Dracula. Vlad Tepes is the name of the guy. Yeah, the name of the guy that was known as Vlad the Impaler, who was the inspiration for Dracula. You're going to go there in Romania?
Yes. I have my uncle used to live in Romania when he was out there, and he had a kid and was married and then moved back to the States. But anyway, fast forward, I have a cousin out there, and she's come to Florida to see me a couple of times, and I'm like, man, I need to go to Romania to see you. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it for my 50th birthday.
You said 50th?
Yes.
50?
Mhm.
Well, you're a youngster. Why, you're just a youngster. You know, I'm older than Stanley.
Yeah, I'm still learning to crawl.
It's just out of the oven. Dupa says, understandable. It hurts now, but this will pass, and someday you'll have a little nipper again. I agree. The Middleman Vicky says, the interview with Ruta Lee is meant to be, Tom. I think so. And thank you, Virgo. You know, I'm having that famous movie and TV star here less than a week from today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, her name's Ruta Lee, and she was on every TV show in the 60s and 70s, and she's having a birthday, May 30th. It's my birthday, too, and she's doing her own production. She had 4 sold-out shows this weekend at the ripe young age of 90. Well, she's 89 right now. She'll be turning 90 on May 30th, and for her birthday, she's doing her one-woman show called
May 30th. It's we're already in April.
Yeah.
Oh, so your birthday just passed?
No, it's coming up in May.
April, May. Oh my God! You see, this is how old I'm getting. You know, you call me a youngster. This is how old I'm getting. I don't even have a clue.
Yeah.
I just work, come home, listen to you guys.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Well, she's doing a show called Consider Your Ass Kissed. And she's got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And she's an amazing philanthropist as well. And so, you know, she's having a bunch of celebrity sort of guests show up for this show. I think she's got a full band behind her and stuff. She's amazing. Absolutely amazing. 90 years old for her birthday. She's going to do this show. She sold out 4 shows just this past weekend. Sold out. So yes, she's a ball of fire, and I for years have thought, in my opinion, she is the most iconic, most spectacular, most appeared in every show. And when she was on a show that you'd watch, whether it was a Western, a detective show, a drama, the show was a million times better if Ruta Lee was on it. And I mentioned to my good friend Ed Robertson that I thought Ruta Lee was the defining actress of the classic television era. And by the way, she was in movies too. She was in Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. She was in Witness for the Prosecution. And she's done a million other things. We got stories to tell. She actually lobbied Nikita Khrushchev to have one of her family members released during the Cold War. I mean, she's an amazing woman. She's just an amazing woman. And I told Ed Robertson that, man, do I think the world of this lady. And he goes, I might be able to help you with an interview. And so he put me in touch with the publicist to the stars, and I gave him a call. And so, yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So there we are.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
It's next Wednesday. Oh, Virgo, if you want to see me gush and fawn and stammer and be tongue-tied, you wait until Ruta Lee is on the program.
And I've never seen you do that.
No, I'll be a mound of jello. It's gonna be yes. Well, we've got a short amount of time with her, but we'll get as many stories as we can. I know some of them because I'm a tremendous fan, but there's a couple of them people are just gonna love, absolutely love. This woman is just amazing. So very much looking forward to having her on next week. But
well,
yeah.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I'll put that on my calendar so I don't fall asleep, because sometimes when I come home I fall asleep for a little bit, and then I'll wake up to you and Stanley.
Well,
just cracking at it.
I don't know how anybody stays awake during this show. Frankly,
well, it's not your show that puts me to sleep. It's my job.
Doc says you're gonna be all starstruck, eh, Tom? Yes, I will. I've interviewed U.S. senators, other actors and actresses of note, really successful musicians, authors, and nothing is going to be like this. I'm just going to be... So what made you want to go to Romanian? Do you speak Romanian? Are you just going to go all over Europe or just Romania? Because it's a lot nicer over there than people imagine.
It is. I've seen lots of pictures, and no, I haven't been to Romania. I've been to Norway. I've been to France. I've been to England. But Romania, like I said, because my cousin lives there, and I want to, that is on my bucket list. I want to see Dracula's castle.
Well, you're gonna. I bet you they have a... Mm-hmm. Well, I've seen some pictures and things of the tour over there, and a lot of people go there for that reason.
My uncle already did it when he went to see his daughter, so I want to do it.
Cool.
I'm so excited. I really want to. That is because I'm one of those people where the whole month of September is my birthday. But for my 50th, the whole year is going to be my birthday.
And why not?
I'm going to do, yes, as much as I can do within that year, which whatever God allows, I will do it.
I don't blame you.
I will do it.
I don't blame you. You know what? All I want for my birthday is another birthday.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to see my grandkids,
Yeah.
I want to see, my kids grow older and give me some grandkids, give me some grandbabies so I can spoil them and give them back. And that's revenge.
Yeah. Yeah. Doc says I'm wicked. Ain't no rest for me. Boy, we all know that, Doc.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Yeah, yeah.
And I also want to do here's another idea. If you want to jot that down on your list, I want to do the ghost tour of St. Augustine in Florida.
They have a ghost tour there?
Oh, yes, they do. You know, St. Augustine is one of the oldest towns in America,
I know that.
if not the oldest town.
Gotcha. Well, we might do a show on ghosts. That sounds like something down our alley, so to speak.
You know me, I'm dark and twisted.
Yes. Yes. Doc says that he heard a rumor that the ground turns red where Vlad impaled his victims. And I didn't even talk about Lady Elizabeth Bathory, who was known for like hiring servants and draining of them of their blood and bathing in it to.
Are you talking about Madame Laurie in Louisiana?
No. I'm talking about Elizabeth Bathory over in Europe. She was a countess, and she apparently did all sorts of crazy things with all these servants because she was royalty, and they would just sort of disappear, but she would drain them of the blood. This is the legend. And then bathe in their blood to gain some form of, eternal youth, or at least that's what she thought. But there's all sorts of stories and rumors about her. Doc says he's lived in haunted houses. He's got a plethora of ghost stories. So yeah, we'll get that cooking for you.
Oh, I have some ghost stories as well.
Okay.
One of them I can tell you really quick.
Well, let's have it. Let's get a teaser going here.
Okay. Well, I had just recently moved to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And this was in 2008, and I stayed in Orlando for like a year, and I didn't like it. So I went and I moved to Apollo Beach.
I know where that's at. That's just outside of Tampa, kind of.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was looking for places, and there were two houses I was supposed to see with the realtor that day. One house I went into, I didn't like it. It was, just blah, and it just wasn't for me. I didn't like the shape of it. You know how us women get. And
yeah.
The second house was awesome. I loved it. Tom, I tell you not, when I walked in, all the hairs stood up on me. Okay?
Yeah, that's called the willies. You got the willies.
Yes, I felt an evil presence there.
Oh wow.
And I just couldn't. I just cut the tour short. I said, you know what? This is not. I just wanted to get the hell out. And I ended up taking the house that I really didn't like, and I ended up liking it. But
oh man, no, I think there's a thing, regardless of if you believe in the afterlife and spiritual, supernatural. People have said all over, if you are in a situation and you feel super uncomfortable, you should always get out of it. You should trust that instinct. And
trust your instinct.
I think that's true. There have been times I've been in places and I've just gone, you know what? I don't feel right here. I'm not going to blame it on anything, but I just, something's, I don't know. Doc says it's Orlando. Ain't nobody that lived there like it. It's too touristy. It's way too touristy. I mean, it's a fun place
it was too touristy
to visit.
Everything was just Disney and
Universal and
yeah, and I really didn't like it. I couldn't find work there, so it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And I spent a year, I didn't find work. And everything was either Walmart or Disney.
Yeah, well, Apollo Beach is nice. So that area has really grown a lot over. When I went up to Apollo Beach, it was just starting housing developments and stuff. It was just starting to build up. But it's a nice area, Apollo Beach.
Oh, you should see it now. It is so congested. I don't live in Apollo Beach anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Now I live on Manatee River. If you know where that is.
I know where the river is, yeah.
Okay, so I'm in Bradenton.
Oh, Bradenton. Oh, come on. I know where that's at. Sure. I used to live in Tampa, and I lived in what they now call, it's Soho. It's South Howard. Basically, I lived on Bayshore, sort of where Howard and Armenia hit at the very top. It's a little bit of a hoity-toity kind of a bohemian area now. When I lived there, it was just a place, but because it was back in the mid '90s. But
we have a Soho in New York.
Well, I know.
South of Houston.
Well, I know the Soho in New York, big time. But that's what they called it there. I think is just a little nod to it. But it's pretty upscale and stuff now. It was a high rent district then, but now it's built up and stuff, and you know,
bunch of yuppies.
I enjoyed Tampa quite a bit. I really like living there. But
Tampa is nice. I love Tampa. I still go to Tampa. I like Tampa a lot.
But
I love Ybor City.
Ybor used to be even cooler than it is now.
Yeah.
Way cooler than it is now.
Yeah, even when I moved out there, when I first moved to Florida, yeah.
Yeah, when I lived there in the mid '90s, it wasn't as developed as it is now, and even then, it was really, really great. Now,
very old looking town.
Oh yeah,
very good.
Schwarzenegger had like a cigar factory there. It used to be all cigar factories back in the day, way back in the day.
There's still the cigar factory.
Yeah, there's still some of that stuff there. But
and did you go to the restaurant called Columbia?
Oh, please. Columbia's famous. Sure, I went there. I went there one time with a date, and I got some crazy, like, nothing but meat platter. It was chorizo and all sorts of stuff. I was sitting there on this date getting the meat sweats, eating this stuff. But it's really great on the inside, and it's just a famous place. Yeah, the Columbia is really, really awesome.
We have one here in Siesta Key.
Oh, hey, well, see, all of the, Safety Harbor, Bradenton, all of those sort of smaller towns south of Tampa, those are really nice places too. Melbourne and, all of them down the coast there.
And I'm not far
Sarasota.
From Sarasota Airport.
Yeah, Sarasota's
I'm
awesome.
about like 15 minutes away.
You're in a good spot. You're in a good spot. Yes, it's substantially
right there by Palmetto. Palmetto.
Substantially south of Ocala, Doc. Quite a ways south of Ocala. Dupa says, got any positive ghost stories? Almost fell down the stairs once. I was falling forward, and I swear I felt someone pull on my shirt and yank me back. I don't believe in ghosts, but if I did, and Metal Main Vicky says she believes it. So, we'll save those for our ghost show.
That was Casper the ghost that saved you.
Casper, the friendly ghost. The friendliest ghost you know. Yeah, and his girlfriend, Wendy, the witch. But anyway. Well, hey, man, thanks for calling. And it's always great when you call. And thank you for contributing to the show. And you know what? Thank you just for being Virgo.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you, Tom.
All righty.
We always have a good time when we talk.
Yes, we do. We do. But that's because you and I are reasonable.
Yes. That's because me and you are sane.
And so I think sometimes we just let things just slide right off. Some people don't.
Yeah.
But I could make you feel at home. Hey, Virgo, you're gonna make dinner tonight?
That's my Irish.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll talk to you later. You have a great evening.
Okay, you do the same. I'll talk to you soon, okay?
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
That's the wonderful Virgo Sapphires. She's always over there at the Urban Landlord on YouTube. And those people are on the air all the time over there. But I'm my show that I kind of frequent is Stanley versus the World. Stanley's Cross. He's a wonderful guy. He's in our chat room once in a while, and we love having him here. And she's there, and she's funny, and she's got a lot of great stories, and she's sane. Doc says he's a Virgo by right of birth. There you go. And says, well, damn, I'm insane. Well, you're not insane. You're Cajun. Not saying there's a difference. I'm just saying. Doc, we love having you around here, man. You're the goods. You're the goods. So anything we can do to perk things up for you, you let us know. You just let us know, Chief. Well, anyway, I'm looking at that old clock on the wall. And like the Reverend Al Green, I'm going to have to get up on out of here. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. With that being said, I think the only thing left to say, oh, did I tell you that Ruta Lee is going to be here next Wednesday, April the 9th? Yeah, I'm going to dress up. I'm going to wear clean clothes. I'm going to have my eyebrows done. I mean, it's going to be a thing. It's going to be a thing. I have, I don't get intimidated by famous people. I really don't. I've interviewed a million of them. They're people just like us. But there are certain people, when you've admired them for a long time, and then you find out things about them that you didn't know just by watching them on a TV show. And it gets better and better and better and better. This woman is a philanthropist of the highest order. So that shows she's kind, and she's, just Ruta Lee's going to be with us. And we share a birthday, by the way. So we don't really share it. It's her birthday. I'm just sort of leasing a tiny corner of the... Anyway. Doc said, can I get a new heart? This one's broken. Oh, Doc, I'm sorry to hear that. But you'll grow back a new one, and it'll be bigger and better than ever before. Because you got a lot of heart. Dupa says, we can help mend it. Yes, we can. We really, really can. Well, we can try. We can try. I've heard etouffee is the cure for a broken heart. Doc says she's a classy lady. She is Ruta Lee. Ruta Lee. Tell your friends. Tell everybody, man. This is going to be the biggest Tom Gulley show ever. And for me, anyway. And we used to, and some people here might remember this. Metal Maiden Vicky might remember this. We used to crown a Miss Tom Gulley show every year. I'll tell you what, somebody's a shoo-in for Miss Tom Gulley Show 2025. Although that's such a way down on the list of accolades for this woman. Let's see here. Dupa says, everyone on their best behavior when Ruta Lee arrives. Yeah, man. Look, I need all of you to be wingmen and just make me look really cool in front of Ruta Lee, if you could. Tom always talks about you. He's, Look, I love the TV show The Fugitive. I have the box set. The final 2-part episode is incredible because that's when the fugitive quits running. It's the end of the series, and it's amazing. And it's a big favorite. But by far my favorite episode, and it is a 2-part episode. And I highly encourage you, after this show is completed, to find it somewhere, whether it's YouTube or wherever you can find it. It's an episode of The Fugitive, the TV show, and it's called Angels Travel Lonely Roads. Angels Travel Lonely Roads. It's a two-parter. She's in the second part, but you got to watch the first part to understand the second part. And the whole thing together, it's amazing. It's amazing. And she's amazing in it. She's amazing in everything. When you used to see a TV show and it would come on, tonight's guest stars, blah, 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 another person, Ruta Lee. Ruta Lee. You knew it was going to be even better. Even if it was one of your favorite shows, you knew it was going to be better than any of the other shows on that show, episodes. Metal Man Biggie says, I think that was before my time with your show. Oh. No, it was probably during the same time, but it might have just been some episodes that you missed. We have your back, Tom. Thank you, Dupa. 5-star interviews ahead. Thank you, Pepe Sylvia. Yes, everybody's agreeing with Pepe. With all that being said, I will be gushing about Ruta Lee, again. And here's another thing. This weekend's members-only show that I do on Sunday will be a precursor to getting ready for Ruta Lee. Because I only have her for like a half hour, 45 minutes. So I will tell you a bunch of stuff about her because we're not going to nearly get to all the things I'd like to talk to her about. And we'll just delve into it like crazy. Like crazy. Here, Dupa's mentioning something, and she's quite correct. That could be. Tom, you mentioned Angels Travel Lonely Roads before. We have our Ruta Lee homework for next Wednesday. Yeah, I think Ed Robertson mentioned it as well. Incidentally, that episode, both parts of it, contain an Academy Award winner. Let's see here. Angels Travel on Lonely Roads. Dang it. I'm so flummoxed that I can't even type. Angels Travel on Lonely Roads. Oh, guess what? Guess what? It's on YouTube. It's on YouTube. Both parts are on YouTube. Man, oh man. I'm so tempted to... Well, why don't we do this? I'm going to give you guys the link addresses. Here's part 1. Boom. Come on, Tommy. Come on, big fella. Boom. There's the first part. And let's get the second part. And then I'm going to tell you, here's the second part. This is in HD, by the way. And I'm telling you, this episode is so incredibly good. It is so incredibly good. Oh, man. Hold on here. The part 1 part didn't do what I wanted it to do. It's all connected. Anyway, there they are. There are the two. You guys know what to do there. Angels Travel on Lonely Roads. Now, it's important to note that the woman who is in both parts of this is, the name is Eileen Heckart. Eileen Heckart. Okay, let's see here. And Eileen is a person who I believe, let's see here, stage, film, and television. She won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for the 1972 film Butterflies Are Free. And she was nominated for The Bad Seed in 1956. This is a very decorated actress, and she is brilliant. But man, oh man, oh man. Man, oh man, oh man. Is Eileen Heckart amazing. So anyway, open the link in a new window. Virgo always does a great call. She does. Andrew Hanley says, Tommy Twinkletoes, how you been? I've been good, Andrew. Am I supposed to remember who you are? Because if I don't, I'm sorry. I've been great. But angels travel on lonely roads. And also in the part 2, and you got to watch both parts. On the part 2, you will see the brilliance, the incandescent brilliance of Ruta Lee, who will be with us, as I said, next Wednesday. All right, with all that being said, I think the only thing left to say is your Reverend Bill's nephew. Reverend Bill. It's not ringing a bell. With all that being said, I think the only thing left to say is, till next time, we'll see you next time.
1, 2, 3, 4. They call me Mr. Gulley. I've got something for your ear. Now it might sound kind of funny, but I'll make it very clear. So what we talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin', and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. Here we go now. I'm talking about Mr. Gulley, and you don't know where he's been. Oh no, he's been right in your alley. Well, I'm Mr. Gulley, yes I am. So what we talking about? We're talking